Some people think you can live without intimacy, without connection. I think that's total crap. A few years ago, a client emailed me, and he said, "Today a miracle happened. Since my wife passed, I've been very lonely. I haven't so much as been hugged in over 2 years. I'm not handsome, I'm not rich, I don't know how to talk to women. But you held me, you rubbed my back, you listened to me vent about my grief. This might just be a job for you, but today you saved my life." Now, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a doctor. I don't work for a crisis hotline. I'm a sex worker. And as a sex worker, I see a side of people most of you don't. Just so we're on the same page, the term sex work refers to sexual encounters by consenting adults for some sort of payment. Now, before your imagination goes crazy, hold on. Think about this. On average, studies have shown that sex only lasts 5.4 minutes. So if they're paying for an hour or 3, what are they actually paying for? They're paying for a place to be their true selves, a place to talk about challenges without being criticized or judged, a place to try new things without losing everything they've built. And frankly, sex is a really strong need for them, and it often consumes them because sex is how men feel loved and worthy. You see, we're all designed for connection, to find our tribe. It's how humans work. In fact, have you ever known someone that was deeply rooted and connected and yet committed suicide? Probably not. In 2016 alone, there were almost 45,000 suicides in the United States. I also want to point out that almost 80% of those were men. That's 4 times the number of women. Why is that happening? Why so many more men? As a woman, I can pinpoint the person in my life that was pivotal to helping me get through the hard times. Through my divorce, when I lost a brother, and the times I just needed a friend. We all need just one person in our lives that sees who we really are under everything else and loves us anyways. And oftentimes, men don't have that. To demonstrate, I'd like the men here today to think about a time you might have heard one of the following phrases. Man up. Toughen up. Don't be a sissy. Real men don't cry. How old were you the first time you heard that? Younger than 10? Younger than 5? What was going on in that moment? Were you afraid? Were you sad? Were you hurt? Did you get the support that you needed? Did you get to cry? Or did you learn to keep it inside? From a very young age, our boys are getting messages that having feelings and needing help is bad. This happens at school, in sports, on TV, and sometimes in their own families. They come to believe that their value, their manhood, is in their muscles, their money, or their mojo. Think about that. You don't get to pick your body. There's only so much you can do with it. Money can be really hard to make happen, if it ever does, and it can go away very quickly. So if you only have 3 ways to prove yourself, and the first 2 you can't control, no wonder they turn to sex to feel better. No wonder they get desperate and aggressive when they feel lonely or unworthy. So oftentimes, they create this mask, a persona, if you will, to keep themselves protected from shaming or criticism, usually from other men. A mask of what a man is supposed to be: stoic, logical, tough, fearless, emotionless. And since sex is the only time that men get to take off that mask, it's easy to understand why men often feel like they need to be connected sexually in order to express themselves emotionally. On the other hand, women often feel like we need to be connected emotionally to express ourselves sexually, right? And this dynamic, this mismatch that happens, oftentimes leaves the guy feeling alone or rejected. And then poof, they're in bed with a sex worker. But what happens if he's too poor, too afraid, or too ashamed to hire someone like me? Former NFL player Joe Ehrman once said, "Boys who can't cry shoot bullets." Because our men don't have tools or outlets for alienation or rejection or loneliness. We see violent outbursts all around us. They just implode. Domestic violence, abuse, radical hate groups, police brutality, incels. There were 382 mass murders in 2016 alone. Almost 17,000 rapes and 7,500 additional murders. As a society, we are largely missing the fact that the way we teach our boys to be men is directly related to the violence that we're seeing. Sure, violence has many causes: genetics, situational, conditioning. We can't cure the genetics yet. We can't prevent all the bad situations, but we can and we must address the conditioning. And it starts with how we talk to our children. We must stop telling them to man up or stop crying. We must stop excusing, teasing, and bullying as boys being boys. We must allow mistakes and learning, emotions, and empathy. We need them to see that healthy manhood is about facing your fears, overcoming challenges, and living with compassion. If you noticed before, I didn't mention what kind of sex worker I am, and there are many. It's because it doesn't matter. I do whatever it takes to help people heal. Whether that's a Pretty Woman experience or naked therapy. My job includes consoling a man who misses his children on the other side of the country, to teaching someone about female anatomy, to reminding someone what it feels like to be touched who's been deprived for so long, to helping someone who's disabled feel normal just for a minute. Now, don't get me wrong, this job's not glamorous, and it is certainly not easy. There's always a guy that wants to call all the time. You all know somebody like that, right? Or somebody that wants to do something really funky, okay? But there's a greater good here. These people deserve to feel important and connected to. And if they could find that somewhere else, they would have. We're all people that need help. We pay for help all the time. We pay for tax attorneys. We pay for car repairs. We pay for childcare, housekeeping. There's just this huge stigma around sex. Just as much as we seek healing for our minds and our bodies, we ought to be free to seek healing for our hearts and, well, our parts too. Just as you'd hire a mental health professional, I'm a sexual health professional. But it's not about the sex. It's about intimacy and connection. Thank you.